Today, we're going to be talking about what lessons we've learned from the pandemic. We're going to have a chat about the climate emergency and how we can turn our anxiety into action.
First off, let's see what we can learn from the pandemic. We'll start off by looking at a UK case study in the early days of the pandemic. On the 31st of December, China alerts the World Health Organization to a new virus. On the 23rd of January, Wuhan is locked down. Wuhan is just a little bit bigger than Cork County in area with a population of 11 million. Locking down a region is a significant move and you'd only do it for a serious threat. On the 29th of January, Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, misses the second Cobra meeting on the new virus. Was this a good move? If you were the leader of the UK, would you have missed that meeting? Think about that for a second. On the 12th of February, it was thought the virus could infect 45 million people in the UK alone. On February 15th, the first recorded death in Europe. On the 26th of February, a leaked government report showed that they thought 500,000 Britons could die. That's a big deal. Just a week later, though, Boris attends a rugby match with 82,000 spectators, a massive transmission event. Would you have done that? Was that good leadership? 2 weeks later, he finally put the country in lockdown. I want you to have a quick 2-minute discussion. If you were the Prime Minister, what would you have done differently? When would you have intervened? What impact do you think that would have had? Why didn't Boris take the action that you would have taken? Pause this video now and discuss this. I wonder, did you talk about how the problem was in Wuhan, the other side of the world? Who cares? It'll never reach us. Maybe they ignored the warning signals because they were thinking about now instead of the future.
We've been getting warning signals about the climate emergency for a very long time. Why haven't we acted? Look at the headlines. Global freshwater fish populations at risk of extinction. The head of the UK Environment Agency has come out and said that this is a threat to humanity. People in the Maldives will lose their homes. Their government is talking to other countries to find a new home for these people. This all happening at 1.1 degrees Celsius increase. Why are we not acting like it's an emergency? Is it because, like Wuhan, we think it isn't going to come knocking on our door? Are we thinking too much about the now instead of the future? Do we think we'll all be dead and not affected? The former director of NASA has said, "We are in a planetary emergency. This is significant."
So let's look at our projections of what's going to happen if we stay on our current trajectory. But first, pause the video now and note down what age you'll be in 2030, 2040, 2050, etc. You will have a minute. By 2030, I'll be 24. Throughout the 2030s, the rainforests have been cut down so much that it will degrade into a dry savanna, altering the global water cycle. The Arctic will become ice-free in the summer, which means that less radiation will be reflected back into space, and more of the ocean will be uncovered, absorbing more of the sun's radiation. Global heating speeds up. By 2040, I will be 34. The frozen soils in the north will have all thawed throughout the 2040s, which will release methane, which is more powerful greenhouse gas, trapping more heat in the Earth's atmosphere. This accelerates global heating. By 2050, I'll be 44. The oceans will have become so warm and acidic that coral reefs around the world die. Fish populations around the world crash throughout the 2050s. By 2080, I'll be 74. We'll have exhausted our soils through poor land management practice, so global food productions enter a crisis. Pollinating insects will also disappear. By 2100, I'll be 94. Our planet will be 4 degrees warmer. Large parts of the Earth are uninhabitable.
The founding director of the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research says that based on sober scientific analysis, we are deeply within a climate emergency, but people are not aware of it. You now know more than most of the people outside this building. Why are people not aware of it? An emergency of this scale that threatens human life. Right now, the media is saturated with the pandemic. It is in all the papers, the news, and on social media. Of course, people do not know about the scale of the emergency. It isn't being reported in the media as much as it should be. Sky News now have a dedicated channel on the climate emergency. The Guardian newspaper also have a dedicated section. So of course people might think they'll be dead before anything major happens, because if it was that bad, it would be in the news, right?
Now that pandemic has shown us clearly the power of collective action.
Governments and communities have worked together across the world to reduce transmissions. Normally, it takes 10 to 15 years on average to develop a vaccine. Never before has it been done in less than 5 years, but we did it in one. If we bend our backs to a problem, we can address it. There are so many solutions out there. The Chinese have even developed solar panels that work in the night. They harness the power of the rain. We just need to put these solutions in place now. Now, right now, not in 2030, not in 2050. What we do in this decade matters.
Myself and other students from Art School Namara, students from Rockbrook Park School in Dublin and Mount Science CBS in Waterford took part in an Oxford University research project looking at digital storytelling and different possibilities for climate futures. Communication is hard. If you tell the people the facts, they might feel overwhelmed and disengaged. But if you paint a picture that all the solutions are there and we just need to put them in place, then people will relax. How do you find the sweet spot? How do you impart the gravity of the situation and make people empowered to make change? How do you feel right now? Pause the video for a 1-minute chat.
We read an article in class explaining why we are not tackling the climate crisis. Our brains have evolved in a way that doesn't allow us to engage with the emergency. One of the brain biases is called hyperbolic discounting. This means that we are more concerned with what's happening now than in our future. Our early ancestors were more worried about getting food and struggling to survive. The other brain bias is about the bystander effect. We believe that someone else will solve the problem. The government will solve the problem, businesses will solve the problem, technology will solve the problem. But humans work in government businesses and we develop technology. We all believe this, nothing will get done. The last brain bias is about the lack of concern for future generations. We really only care about our children and grandchildren. Beyond that, have we no investment? What brain biases speaks to you and why? Pause the video for a quick 1-minute chat.
So what's the essence of the problem? Carbon dioxide is one of the biggest issues. It is a greenhouse gas and it is trapping heat in our atmosphere. This graph from NASA shows that it hasn't changed over 800,000 years. But recently, in the last 150 years, there's been a rapid increase caused by human activity. This graph shows you where all the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from. The biggest one is from energy production. Burning of fossil fuels to make our electricity, fuel our transport, heat our homes. This accounts for 73% of the climate emergency problem. So what do we need to do? Stop burning fossil fuels now.
In Ireland, we have lots of different energy providers. You can see that some of these only get a relatively small percentage of their electricity from renewable resources, from clean energy. In Ireland, 40% of our electricity comes from renewables. We have a target to increase this by 70% by 2030. This is only a target, so we might not meet this, but we could, and we could go even higher. We are a country with resources, the education and know-how. Let's cement this target of 70% and go higher. We can do this if we all change to a renewable energy provider that gets 100% of their energy from renewable resources. If we all did this, what impact would it have? Discuss for 1 minute and pause the video now. If we did this, our government and businesses would see that there is a public appetite for change. They would accelerate our shift to renewable energy to try and meet the demand. That's just business. We know collective action works. We have seen it in the pandemic, so let's make this happen.
Of course, we're going to feel anxious and overwhelmed about this. That's a normal reaction and a sensible one. However, if we turn our backs on this, action will be slow. So we need to shout louder. Let's turn our anxiety to action. Taking action actually makes us feel like we have control over this, and we do. So in addition to changing to a renewable energy provider, we can talk to people about what is happening. Spread the word. Talk to your siblings, your parents, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, your neighbours, your cats, your dogs. Let's solve this as a community, but people need to know about it first. You have the knowledge to take action and spread it. Let's stop putting our heads in the sand. Let's make sure we're having the right conversations so that our local TDs hear that this is important to us and they can accelerate action and take the courageous steps that need to be taken. When you've changed to a renewable energy provider, please let us know by completing this quick form. It takes 30 seconds. We set up a Google Classroom for this and we'll send out an email to all parents. Here's the code. You can pause the video and take it down now.
Model school to show other schools how we have the power to make change. We'll be keeping an eye on our tracker to see how many staff and families have changed to renewable energy suppliers. We'll keep sharing this data with you. and we'll share with other schools so they can launch their very own campaign. We already have plans to work with WLR to raise awareness and tell people about the changes they can make. We all have the power to make a difference. Every single action counts. What do you think? Have a chat about it.